It's great to be with you again. For those of you who don't know me, I was asked by Vince to speak. My name is Craig Upwood, and about 14 years, something like that. But I know some of you are new, and maybe the first time you're seeing me. So it's a privilege to be talking to you today, and I want to tell you how this whole came to pass. Kenzie and I were here one night. Kenzie and Vince and I were talking about a lot of the daughter and he said, you know, I know you like to serve the mountain. And, well, we had previously talked about that when we were out eating. And he brought it up again. He said, what's your favorite part? And I don't know why it came to me, like the words, you will have your reward in full. Just popped into my head. So I said it. Matthew 6. And he says, well, you want to speak on it? And again, probably lack of sense, I said yes. And so here I am. And the last couple of weeks it has seemed like a definite lack of sense. But there's something behind this. You want me to hear. So here. For those of you who don't know, I'm a school teacher. And so today I'm being asked to speak on probably the greatest lesson ever given by the greatest teacher ever. And it's intimidating because I'm supposed to give some perspective on a greater lesson than I can ever offer. But I'm going to give it a shot here. Let's see how we do. I think if you look at what we've been doing, Vincent has been doing an amazing job in going through the Sermon on the Mount. But it's been a long series so far. I think this is week 6, week 7. And as a teacher, I feel that when you have a lesson and it's going on, you have to occasionally stop and go back and just review. Because I see Matthew 6 as sort of a transitional point. And sometimes when we go back and we review, it's easier to understand the transition. So let's just go back a little bit. Now, as I understand the Sermon on the Mount to this point, the first thing that Vincent was talking to us is that we can be blessed so long as we realize that we have need for God. It says it right there. Those who are poor in spirit, cry out to Him. Mournful, weak, humble, hungry, and thirst for righteousness. Pure in heart, peacemaker, and persecuted. This can be any of us at any time. All we have to do is choose it. So we recognize our need for God. We can be blessed. And if we're blessed, for what it says, we get all the blessing of the kingdom of heaven. 2. Once we're blessed, we're to be a blessing. We're to go out in the world and be the salt that preserves God in this world and the light that reveals God to this world. But 3 was the hard part. To be a blessing requires that we fulfill God's law. In other words, we must go beyond mere compliance with the letter of the law. We have to fulfill the law. Now, Vince has been using a bullseye as his image. And if I might borrow that, I want to borrow it a couple of different ways today. All right? Thou shalt not. That's been the, okay, it's still there. That's been the emphasis in Matthew 5. Thou shalt not murder, commit adultery, revenge, lie, deceive, swear oaths. That's what has been talked about in Matthew 5. Now, the law of Moses and the law of the prophets says that you are good if you comply with the letter of the law. In other words, not doing the outer ring. Well, if that's the case, I'll take my chances. I mean, let's take this week. I didn't kill anybody. I passed. You see, the outer ring to me as a teacher seems to be pass-fail. If you don't do the outer ring, you pass. If you do the outer ring, you fail. Well, this week, I passed. Tell me something I don't know. I didn't kill anybody this week. But what God says is fulfillment of the law is the inner target, the heart. And on that one, I failed miserably this week. Anger. Anger was terrible. And I failed. I failed the test this week. You see, Jesus as a teacher is much harder than Moses or the prophets. And I never thought that. But when I first learned about Jesus as a kid, I thought he was the new, cool, younger teacher. And I still think he's very cool. But he's not easy. He's hard. He's way harder than the old guys. Because we have to address this. All the rest is just circumstance. If we don't address this, it's just how far out this arrow goes on the target. And that's a dangerous thing. And it doesn't maybe lead to murder or adultery or lust, or revenge or deception, but it leads to something that hurts somebody and maybe hurts you. And that's what the past 5 weeks or 6 weeks have been to me. A real gut check. Because as Jesus is teaching and as Jesus is testing, I'm failing in many ways. But today, we're going to transition to Matthew 6. Matthew 6, Christ deals with the righteous acts, giving, praying, fasting. And on the surface, these look much easier, much better. Let me see if I can explain. They are thou shalt do's. I'm much more comfortable with thou shalt do. Because I can do it, and there it is. Thou shalt not means I have to resist. Thou shalt do means I go forward. And it's implied in the wording of Matthew 6, which we're going to read in just a minute, that the audience that Christ was talking to was familiar with what he was saying, thou shalt do. Thou shalt give to the needy. Thou shalt pray. Thou shalt fast. And it says right in there, when you give, when you pray, when you fast, it's assumed. They're already doing it. Now, likewise, we already do a lot of this. We tithe, but beyond that, this church offers an amazing array of service and gift opportunities that just blow me away sometimes. And every time I do it, I'm too resistant to do it. But every time I do it, I just feel privileged to even be involved. And maybe we were just talking about it here again this morning. Pray is sewn into everything we do in this church. So if you come to this church and you don't pray, it's not possible. And even fasting. Last week in the flyer, as we got into Lent, just a range of fast opportunities that allowed us to reflect and to empty our hearts so God can enter in. So if you are in a church, just like the audience of Christ in that day, who oftentimes, or for the most part, were Jews, they were familiar with these activities, these dues. But that's on the surface. And it seems very attainable. But if you've been paying attention the last few weeks, our teacher, he doesn't operate on the surface. The lessons of our teacher are hard, and they're complex, and they go way below the surface. So, with that kind of setup, if you would, if you want to open your Bible, you can. If not, I'll just read Matthew 6. Now, I go Matthew 6 through 18, but I'm going to kind of leave out the Lord's Prayer today. I hope that's okay. I'm going to start with Matthew 6:1. Take care! Exclamation point. Don't do your acts of righteousness before men to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets, as the hypocrites in the synagogues, or on the streets to be honored by men. I tell you the truth. If you do that, you have received your reward in full. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. so that your giving may be done in secret. Then your Father, who sees what is done, will reward you. And when you pray, do not pray like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street and the corners to be seen. I tell you the truth, they have received their reward in full. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. And when you pray, do not keep on babbling like the pagans, for they think they will be heard because of their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask. And now I'm going to skip to verse 16. When you fast, do not look somber as the hypocrites do, for they disfigure their faces to show they are fasting. I tell you the truth, they have received their reward in full. But when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your face, so that it will be obvious to men that you are fasting, but only to your Father who is unseen. And your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. Oh, the first thing I noticed is that he begins the thou shalt with. Take care. Don't do. Oh boy. Here we are. Thou shalt not again. What are we not to do? Still using the bullseye. Don't give to be seen. From your heart, don't pray to be heard. Don't fast to be praised. But that doesn't sound right, because that's why I'm praying, so God hears me. No. Don't give to be seen, don't pray to be heard, don't fast to be praised by others. Because what does he call us if we do that? Well, that sounds harsh, especially since a lot of us do that. We do. And when he says hypocrites, and you're one of them, it hurts, because it's Christ speaking. And so you go, wait, let me look into this. And I looked into it. And as I read and preparing for this, I looked back at what hypocrite meant. And hypocrite in the day, I just want to, first of all, just follow this for a minute. I don't want to think God was giving a slam like we do in the modern day with hypocrite, big slam, disrespect, whatever you call it. I want to think God was being more descriptive. And he was using a word that in the day was really, in the frame of minds of people listening, referring to actors. Actors. They brought to mind actors who play roles in theater. And perhaps those actors even put masks on. So I want to just imagine that you, in your life, what roles do you assume? And what masks do you put on? And when do you put them on? And why do you put them on? Like, do you go to work? And when you go to work, do you put a mask on? And you become somebody a little bit different. And then when you come home and you're with your wife, husband, kids, do you put a mask on? Or you're somebody different? And then when you're with your friends, there's no mask. And you go to church and there's another mask. And if you do that, I want you to ask, what's wrong with that? I mean, it doesn't seem terribly admirable. But Christ, why is it so important when we give and pray and fast? But it is. Jesus says, take care, exclamation point. Don't do this perfectly human thing when doing the righteous act. Let me see if I can make it clear why. At least this is what came through me. When you're doing the act of giving to the needy, don't put on the mask of humility and sincerity. When you do the act of prayer, don't put on the mask of devotion and eloquence. When you do the act of fasting, don't put on the mask of pain and suffering. When you do these acts, don't do them to get applause and approval. And when I think about that, I ask God, even if the results of the acts are good, and He answers me, yes. Yes, even if the results of the acts are good, don't. Our next question, well, why? I mean, good is done, but why? And the answer comes back, because it's false. It's a false representation. It's a lie. It's deception. And it's a perversion of a righteous act. To a self-righteous act. Christ is telling me you're perverting me when you do the righteous acts with mask on. Okay? All right? I've done it. So what's my punishment? I mean, we just went through some punishments in Matthew 5. They were pretty graphic. I mean, you cut my hand off, gouging an eye out, maybe it's my tongue, it's the prayer I did wrong. What's my punishment, Lord? I'm ready. What's my punishment? And He says something remarkable in Matthew 6. Your punishment? You will have your reward in full. Wait, what? Wait. So if I do this to glorify self and not you, my punishment is I will have the reward in full. I get my reward. I seek approval. I get approval. I'm Sally Field playing Norma Ray, and I get the awesome, the enlightenment. You have your reward in full. It doesn't seem like much of a punishment, but I was forgetting something. I will have my reward in full. Another translation says, that is all the reward you will ever get. Look, I'm here. Others are here. Who's not here? God. I walked away from God. He's where He always is. I went somewhere else, to myself. And He's just not interested in interfering. He's not going to interfere with my reward. My reward is I am heard, I am encouraged, I am seen. God's just not interested in interfering with me. But He's not interested in rewarding me either. He's not going to reward or give any power to my act. He's just not interested. Because my heart has gone elsewhere. He's not there to interfere. He's not there to reward. He's just not there. And when He's not there, you realize, this is all I got. And when the praise and the applause, the compliments end, and they will, they always do, then I'm alone. Absolutely alone. Just me and my mask. And I don't know about you, but a lot of the masks I put on are pretty heavy. They get pretty old. And I really hate putting them on. There are days I just don't want to be the smart guy with all the answers. There are days I just don't want to be the counselor to somebody. There are days I don't want to be the good guy, the good husband, the good father, the nice guy, the sweet guy, the tough guy, the winner. There are days I don't want to put those masks on, but because I've walked away so often, that's all I got is this box of masks. And I have to be on again. I'm on again. And it's fatiguing. It's tiring. There's nothing good about it. You may have those temporary rewards, but when they're gone, and will be. You are alone. If your heart is rooted in something else. If your heart is rooted in self. And as I asked these things to myself, and I got the answers, it's sobering. And it's humbling. And it can bring you to your knees. And you start asking questions. All right, God. So that's not the deal. What I'm doing is wrong. Then how is it that I should do my acts of giving and prayer? A little disclaimer here. I'm probably going to emphasize fasting less, because the only reason I've ever fasted is for medical purposes. I think that's what Christ is talking about. So I just don't feel I have any authority. But we're going to focus on giving and prayer. How is it that when we do these acts of giving and prayer, how should we do it? Is it always to be in secret? I mean, what's this left hand, right hand thing? And is it supposed to always be behind closed doors? And what exactly is your reward? I mean, you're pretty inspecific now. You're not really descriptive there. What exactly is your reward? What does it look like? And will we even recognize it? Came with some answers. I hope it works. I think they're blessed. First, I don't believe it always has to be in secret and behind closed doors. I don't. I mean, if you look at Matthew 5:17, it starts with, God says, let your good deeds shine out for all to see. Seems pretty clear. I mean, and it seems totally inconsistent. It's a contradiction. How do you square that with giving and praying in secret? God says, let your good deeds shine out for all to see. But when you read the rest of that, it says, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so everyone will praise your heavenly Father. The purpose of the righteous act is not for you to be seen, but for God to be seen. You and your intentions and even your heart are to receive from the view of others so God can come in to the view of others. So when you're doing your righteous acts, when we do our righteous acts, our hearts, our intentions are to be secret from men, from women, from others, even when those acts are done right out there for everybody to see. Even when we do something right out there for everybody to see, it's our heart, our intention that should receive from view, so God can come into our vision. But that doesn't mean you become invisible. I believe God sees the secrets of our hearts. I relied on a Catholic saint. In fact, he was up on the board earlier. I'm going to one thing there, St. Augustine, 4th century, 5th century. And he writes in his writing on the Sermon on the Mount, he constantly refers to God as the searcher of our hearts, the searcher of our conscience. When we do our acts of righteousness, I think God looks right past the outcomes, right past the circumstances. And he focuses like a laser on our hearts and conscience. And when he sees purity in our motive, I truly believe that God embraces us and gives reward and power to our action. I have a video clip. I hope it shows it. It did for me when I had to move this down. It's about a middle school football team, the Olivet Eagles. I'm a teacher. I'm one of those people in this world that just happens to think that this generation is a little bit better than mine. Kids I teach are amazing, and I can't help but get emotional. This clip is a very unconventional, non-stereotypically Christian act of giving to the needy. I think I'll let the clip speak for itself. Will you maybe get the right picture, please?
We end tonight with the football play of the month. It was executed with amazing precision by the Eagles, the Olivet Eagles. Steve Hartman has the play and the post-game analysis on the road.
Between classes, they schemed and conspired. For weeks, the football players here at Olivet Middle School in Olivet, Michigan secretly planned their remarkable play.
Did anybody go, this is a crazy idea?
No, everyone was in on it.
But like the coaches didn't know anything about it. So we were like going behind their back.
I've just never heard of a team coming up with a plan to not score.
It's just like to make someone's day, make someone's week, just make them happy.
The play, which was 2 plays actually, happened at a home game earlier this month. The first part of their plan was to try to get as close to the goal line as possible without scoring, even if it meant taking a dive on the 1-yard line, which it did. The crowd was not happy. Quarterback Parker Smith.
But us kids knew, hey, we got this. This is our time. This is Keith's time.
Keith Orr is the little kid in the brown jacket. He's learning disabled, struggles with boundaries, but in the sweetest possible way. Because of his special nature, it's no surprise that Keith embraces his fellow football players.
Hug, Gabe.
What is surprising is how they have embraced him.
Hello.
We thought it'd be cool to do something for him.
Because we really wanted to prove that he was part of our team and he meant a lot to us. Nothing can really explain getting a touchdown when you've never had one before.
Which brings us to part 2 of their play. If you didn't see Keith, it's because they were so protective of him. But he was in the middle of that rush.
And when we crossed the goal line, what was that like?
Awesome. It was like, did he just score a touchdown? Did you hear around? Like, oh, man, I can't.
Keith's parents, Carrie and Jim, almost missed the moment, but they got the significance.
Somebody's always going to have his back from now until the day he graduates.
She's right. When the football team decides you're cool, pretty much everyone follows suit. Today, Keith is a new kid, although by no means was he the only one who was profoundly changed.
What was it like for you?
It was like once I saw him go in, I was smiling like about like here.
Wide receiver Justice Miller.
Like nothing could wipe that smile.
Why did it affect you so much?
Because like he's never been like cool or popular, and he went from being like pretty much a nobody to making everyone's day.
Justice admits the play wasn't his idea.
I would have not really thought about that.
He says it never crossed his mind to give Keith any glory.
Well, I kind of went from being somebody that mostly cared about myself and my friends to caring about everyone and trying to make everyone's day and everyone's life.
Which may just make that touchdown the most successful football play of all time. Steve, on the road in Olivet, Michigan.
Love Keith Orr, Justice Miller, and the rest of the kids you know that you fought for. But I don't think that's really what they were going for. I've seen it maybe 25 times. I cry every time. The recipient of the gift is Keith Orr. Sweet little learning disabled kid and boundary issues. Love everybody. But in the middle school, kids like Keith are the least of these. They're always the least of these. If you're a teacher, you see it all the time. The givers are the members of the Olivet Middle School football team. And the middle school culture and the high school culture, they're the greatest of these. And the gift was a touchdown. I mean, it's simple. It doesn't have to be complex always. Because more than a touchdown, the gift was inclusion, acceptance. And in the middle school world, there's almost no greater gift one kid can give to another. And I think it was done with the purest of motives. Justice Miller would have to be the greatest actor on God's earth. God embraced it. And He gave it reward. These boys didn't imagine that they'd be on CBS News. God embraced it. They weren't concerned about the circumstances and how far this would go. It wasn't their concern. And it shouldn't be ours. Do the pure act, let God take care of the rest. And the transformation, well, was key. Touchdown was awesome. But it was the football team. Yeah, most notably Justice Miller. I mean, when I asked him, "Is this your idea?" I was not thought of that. I just thought about myself. From that to a kid who just can't hold it in. And just wants to make everybody's day. Transformation maybe for the parents. And I don't know if you noticed, but the journalist who did the story, his eyes start welling up. And as he signs off, and that's later. I mean, he's doing a video clip later. He's editing later. As he signs off later, you hear his voice choke with emotion. This is a guy who does On the Road every week. And maybe the transformation is us. How many sniffles I hear and tears? It's not just me. And this clip gave me the answers to a lot of these questions. How is it we should do the act of giving? With a pure heart. Nothing else. Is it always in secret? Does it have to be behind closed doors? Sometimes it should be, but not always. Sometimes it's right out there on a football field for everyone to see. And what exactly is your reward, God? Here's the big one. Transformation. And what does that look like? I mean, will we even recognize transformation? I think we just did. It looks like a smile from ear to ear. It looks like tears that involuntarily come. You can't even control it. It feels like the goosebumps that come up on your arm and your neck and the hair that rises up. It feels like the warmth and the tingle inside of you. And you're in no control of it. That's what it looks like. It looks like those things that Paul told us to fix our minds on in Philippians 4. It looks like those things that are true and honorable and right, pure and lovely and admirable. It looks like those things that are excellent and worthy of praise. It looks like those things. And I use that word because of what Christ said in the Beatitudes. Blessed are they that are pure in heart, for they will see God. I'm just going to divert a little bit here. When I hear that, when I read that, just on paper, blessed are they who are pure in heart, for they will see God. To tell you the truth, I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that meant. I mean, what was I supposed to see? Was I supposed to see an image, a figure, a head, 2 arms, a leg, a beard? Does he look like the Jesus in the picture in my mom's house? And what does he look like? I didn't see him. Does he look like the guy who's in the movie right now? What does he look like? I didn't see him. So then I thought I must not be pure in heart. And it also brought me back to the days when I was 13 at Russell Faith Bible Church. And I would walk by Pastor Thompson's office and he'd say, "Craig," he'd call me in. I would go in. I knew what he was going to ask. So, talk to God. You heard his voice yet? No. Because I hadn't. What was I going to do? Lie? That was what I was going to do. What was I going to do? Lie? No, I haven't. And he'd shake his head and he goes, "Well, keep trying. You're going to have to. Gotta hear him if you're going to get into heaven." 13. Oh. So intimidating. For the past couple of weeks, I think I get something. Stop looking for Jesus on your grilled cheese sandwich. It's a true story. It's a news story. But, stop debating whether Christ looks like the guy they cast in the movie. Stop looking for an image. Look for the extension of a pure heart and you'll see God. And when you do, like we just did, rest there. That's where I struggle. Just rest there. Because you're with Him. You're seeing Him. It's in the tear. It's in the smile. It's in the joy and the gratitude of the person you gave to. It's in the warmth and the tingle in your body. You are seeing God when you experience those things. That's what I think I learned. St. Augustine, he said that when you do a pure act, you cleanse the heart. You cleanse the heart, and when you do, it is the cleansing of the eye, the inner eye, by which we see God. I'll say that again. St. Augustine said that when you do a pure act, you cleanse the heart. And the cleansing of the heart is the cleansing of the inner eye, by which we see God. Just going to wait for a second. I want to have my confession first. Another confession. I learned this with giving, but prayer is another issue for me. I mean, I've got to be honest. I don't experience those things when I pray. I struggle with that. I struggle with slowing my mind down enough to be able to get those feelings. So I rarely felt those sensations when I pray. And the question that comes to me is, does that mean that I may not be praying with a pure heart? And the answer is, well, maybe. But I have learned in the past few weeks, as I build towards that, a few things about prayer. One, prayer is supposed to be an intimate act. It doesn't mean it can't be done in front of others. It just has to be intimate. Let me see if I can explain. There's an old translation of the Bible that I like very much, for Matthew 6:6. And it says this: "But when you pray, enter into your bedchambers and close your door, and pray to your Father in secret." It's supposed to be an intimate act, right? What's more intimate than your bedchamber? And can you imagine you want to go into your bedchamber just to be alone, for whatever reason, and you close the door, but somebody else props the door open? Hey, what are you doing in there? Isn't that bizarre? Like, we go into our bedchambers to be alone, to be intimate. We ought not to have a crowd outside the door peering in. I love that translation. It told me so much more about prayer. Prayer is supposed to be the most intimate, sincere meeting of our heart with our God. It doesn't mean it can't be done with others. But you are licensed by God to close the door to others. So your heart is secret in its connection to God. It's not about always behind a closed door. It's about our heart is secret to other men. So as we pray, God is revealed. So first thing I learned is prayer is a very, very intimate act. Second thing, in prayer we're not really telling God anything He doesn't know. It says it right in 6:8. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask. Begs the question, so why do we pray? I mean, if he knows, I'm going to ask this. Why am I asking? If he knows I need this, what's this about? Prayer is not about informing God of anything. He already knows. Here's the third thing. Prayer is nevertheless absolutely essential because of its effect on us. Prayer is not about informing God. Prayer is about transforming us. Prayer is about purifying our heart. I want to share a little bit more from St. Augustine. This stuff, I have to take slow. It's just incredible. St. Augustine writes, "There is brought about in prayer a turning of the heart to Him, and the very act of turning to Him purges the inner eye of the temporary things we so desire. Once purged, the vision of the pure heart may be able to bear the pure light." You see, if your heart is dark, God can't pour light into it. When we pray, we have to purify our heart, turn our heart to Him, purge it of those temporary things we so desire so we can empty it and He can pour in the pure light. Let me see if I can illustrate. Imagine you're in a dark room for however long time, dark, absolutely pitch dark. And something tells you to feel around, find the door, and open it. And as you open it, you look directly into the sun. What is going to be your response? Oh my God! It's going to be so intensely uncomfortable, you are likely to slam the door and go back in and go, whew, wow. It's too bright. It's too bright. You can't bear it. But here's what God wants us to do in prayer. When we go back into that dark room, right there in the middle of darkness, right there in the middle of our mess, turn your heart to Him. Pray. And pray. He knows the whole deal. He knew you were going to open the door before you opened it. He knows what you want. But do it anyways. Because as you pray, in that darkness, light starts to happen. And it grows, and it grows, and it grows. And as you become acclimated to the light, and it gets brighter and brighter in that room, if you go over to that door and you look, it's still uncomfortable, but you can bear it. You don't cover, you don't receive, you can bear it. I pick up with Augustine again. The pure heart may be able to bear the pure light. I'm just going to pause it because I want to be clear. So you open that door and it still might be uncomfortable, but you can bear it. Augustine says, at that point, the pure heart may be able to bear the pure light without any setting or change. And not only bear it, but remain in it. Not merely without an annoyance, but with indescribable joy, with which a life, truly and sincerely blessed, is perfected. The righteous acts are disciplines. They purify our heart. And if we purify our heart enough, God can pour in the pure light. And if that happens, then we can remain in it, not be annoyed by it, and lead a life that is perfected. It started this whole year with the gap. Here's me. Here's God. Are we closing the gap? Well, one of the reasons is because where we are that we're not is that we're in the darkness. And for me, I'm not attentive to the spiritual acts that can bring light to my world. Enough light that as I get close to God and the pure light, I can remain there. I don't recede away. I can bear it and feel the joy of it and stay. This has been a gut check for me. God wanted me to learn how to answer it. Maybe it was an ego, I did so. But I'm glad I did. And I'm glad he's with me. And I'm glad he hung in there with all the mistakes I've made, particularly this week, that he hung in there with me. Because it should be a gut check. And maybe I'm a little intense today, but I just want to share that with you. It's supposed to be a gut check. It's supposed to be kind of hard. When we look at the pure light, it's going to be uncomfortable, but it'll be worth it. Just want to share a couple of closing thoughts. First one's about morality. Listen, through this whole series, I've appreciated something. As we talk about sin, there's been an absence of talk about morality. Morality has its place, but I'll be honest with you, morality is often just an extension of other people's judgments about you or about me. So often it's used to exalt some at the expense of others, and the others are always the sinners. Well, I'm a sinner. And when I hear that, it produces guilt and shame. And I don't know about you, but that feels a little dark to me. Because I'm a sinner. And when I rest too long in those morality accusations and guilt and shame, I don't know about you, but I start feeling pretty comfortable in the darkness. Like that's where I belong. Like I'm not worthy of anything else. Like I'll just stay there in that dark room. And what Christians have got to start admitting is that we're part of the shame-based culture. And when we talk about sin, we talk too much about morality. And not enough about what Christ talks about in the Sermon on the Mount. The Sermon on the Mount gives me hope. Yes, it seems incredibly hard. But it's not about morality, it's about fulfillment. At least I know this. The messenger of the Sermon on the Mount is not trying to shame. He's trying to save you. He's not trying to shame you. He's trying to save you. He's not trying to shame us. He's trying to save us. And he needs us to know this. He's saying to us, I want you in the kingdom of heaven, but your dark heart will not be comfortable there. I want you to be able to bear the pure, I want you to experience, to feel the joy of the pure light, but your dark heart can't bear it. Here's what God wants with our sin. Here's what he wants us to do. When we do giving, praying, fasting, with the purest of motion, we cleanse our inner heart. What that does, the vision of the pure heart becomes able to bear the pure light. The acts transform someone else, and at the same time they transform us. And when they transform us, we can bear the pure light. And we can truly understand what God means by blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. And he wants us to see him. It's amazing to me. God wants to be seen. Not later when we get to heaven. He wants to see right now. He wants to be seen right now. And that gives me hope. Because it's not about morality, it's not about guilt, it's not about shame. It's about he wants us. But I thought I'd end on something a little bit easier to digest. God's a teacher. teacher. And sometimes when we hear things like this, we get, I can't do it. I know from experience, I do it all the time. And you know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of my students. I teach honors history at Marlboro. And if I might do an impression of my students on test day, it's something like this. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. They come into class and they go like, you just want to go, hey, son, all right. It's weird. It's with honor students at Marlboro, it's not like the typical kind of counseling. You don't have to counsel them, hey, you could work a little harder. You have to say, hey, calm down, just a little. And I struggled with this for a long time. I'm going, what do I say to these kids? And all of a sudden something clicked into me when I was in college, and I was there. It was before a psych test, my sophomore year. And I've been working really hard, and I just got caught. I hadn't prepared enough for psych. I had a psych final, or a psych test at 2. It was a midterm, actually. Psych midterm at 2, and I just wasn't there, I didn't think. And I go, oh my God. I have a mini meltdown. No, I have an absolute meltdown. And it's in the dorm room, and it's about 11:30. Thank God my roommates were out, and I had a meltdown. And I just stopped, and I said, you know what? I don't care. I don't care. I don't care about the test. I don't care about the outcome. I don't care if I fail. I don't care if I fail out of school. I don't care. I don't want this anymore. I don't want it. I sat down, turned on the TV. Thank God the Cubs had an early day game. Because I got to watch the Cubs a little bit. They calmed me down. And I'm watching the baseball game, and I look out and I go, man, this guy is really blue. Hey, that's right, I got practice later. Oh, I love practice. I've been hitting good, I love practice. You know what? I mean, I'm still going to practice. Even if I fail this test, I mean, I'm still going to see my buddies that still don't play baseball. You know what? I'm still going to be young, I'm still going to be healthy. I know my folks, they're still going to love me. Stop. Go take the test. Stop worrying. Don't worry about the outcomes. Just go take the test. And I went and I took the test with the purest of motives to just see what I could do. That's it. I didn't give one thought to the outcome. And man, I was so focused, I can't tell you. It was boom. 98. I had barely studied. I got caught. You tell me whether God was with me. I wasn't a real Christ follower. I wasn't a Christ follower at all, but he was there. There's something in here purified. Flashback 20 years ago. And I just couldn't take it anymore. So I came up with a saying to my kids. I said, you know what, guys? Just listen. Just put down the pencil for a minute and listen. Before we start today, I just want to tell you something. Regardless of the outcome of this test, 45 minutes, when that bell rings, the sky's still going to be blue, grass is still going to be green. You'll have your health, you'll have your youth. Your parents will still love you. And they go, nah, because they've done all they had to do. I just wanted them to relax and do it with a pure heart. And let me offer this to you today. When we start thinking about all the things that Vince has talked about in Matthew 5, and all the things I've talked about today, have hope. Stay away from morality. Think about what it's really about. It's really about God wanting to be with us, about us being comfortable and being with others. So I have to say, try not to sin. Try to do right. Try to keep your heart clean. But every day, at the end of the day, the next day the sky's going to still be blue. Grass still going to be green. And you'll have your heart, and you'll have his light, and your Father will still love you